Odds Market.
I'm Dave Betts.
An obsession.
This is Theo Goodman.
All the tools to be among that few that win.
Because I'm winning.
Calculated risk.
I'm Stuart from Tipster HQ.
My name's Jay Paglia.
Taking the best prices in the market.
Hey guys, it's Ardial.
Some call it gambling.
Here to bring you the best political betting tips.
It's the booming industry of professional gaming.
Odds Market, Sports Bet Daily.
Bankroll management.
Over at Odds Market.
Oddsmarket.com.
We are Odds Market.
Watch us.
Hello, Adam. How are you doing?
Hello. Great. Having a busy Friday here, but looking forward to the turn of the seasons, I guess. The regular season ending on Saturday and playoffs starting on Wednesday.
Yes. I have to say, NHL is one of the ones I'm still sort of learning about. But the Stanley Cup Playoffs, I do watch. My husband being Canadian, he is from Vancouver. You yourself are Canadian. Which part of Canada are you from?
Well, I'm a bit embarrassed to say it at the moment. I'm from Edmonton, and the Oilers have had a bit of a playoff drought for the better part of the last 15 years. So I end up rooting for all the teams that sort of don't exist within the Oilers sphere. So I don't cheer for Vancouver. I don't cheer for Calgary. You know, I got to stick away from those teams.
Now, obviously, we're Sportsbet Daily is European facing, and so I'm not sure, if people know sort of the format or whatever. But in case people do not know the NHL playoffs format, could you briefly explain it to us?
Absolutely, yeah. It's very similar to the NBA format, if you're familiar with that. 16 teams qualify for the playoffs, broken into an Eastern and Western Conference. They're seeded according to their regular season record and wins, overtime losses, that sort of thing. And then they play best of 7 series throughout the entire tournament. So first team to win 4 games in a series obviously moves on to the next round, and there's one winner that comes out of both conferences into the Stanley Cup Finals, which is sort of the pinnacle of the hockey world. I think even if you're from Europe, you're familiar with the NHL overall. Many NHL players are from Europe, and that's sort of it's the best quality league in the world. So it's definitely worth checking out at some point.
Yeah. As growing up, did you play ice hockey? I know my husband did. I think he broke his nose about 5 times. He's got a bad back as a result. But yeah, he grew up on ice. Did you?
Yeah. Actually, I have 2 younger brothers. My middle brother was actually the first one who my parents signed up. We were in a shop buying rollerblades for the family. He was about 5. I was about 7, 8. And the guy at the sport check or whatever said he's a natural skater. And so my parents actually registered him for hockey for 2 years before they thought, okay, maybe the older one should get a shot as well. Played 15 years of minor hockey, and then played a little bit of junior C, which isn't that great of quality, but I miss it for sure. I definitely miss it.
Well, so reading your article now, we've started. If you head on over oddsmarket.com /tips/hockey, we've got now in the roundup you're breaking down the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, and we will be also supplying tips as well for that during the playoffs. But in one of your articles, you say that this tournament is a marathon. Why do you say that?
Yeah, so the regular season ends, as I said, on the 6th. The playoffs start on the 9th, and the teams that reach the Stanley Cup Finals play until the first week of June. So they've got an 82-game season between October and April, playing almost every 2 to 3 nights on average, and then they play alternating nights through 4 best of 7 series over the next 2 months. So it really is an endurance test, and the teams that sort of can roll with 3 or 4 lines tend to have the best chance because their players are not fatigued. Well, I mean, everybody gets fatigued to a certain extent. Everybody gets injured. The guys often, as soon as teams are eliminated, will talk about the injuries that they actually played through during the playoffs. So a marathon is a fit analogy, and that's about the best way to describe it.
Now, 7 of the 8 matchups are known in the opening round. Were there any teams that you didn't think that would make it this far?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going into this season, everybody sort of has. But one team that certainly was off everybody's was the New York Islanders. And last summer, the New York Islanders lost their best player, John Tavares, to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that it was the biggest acquisition of the offseason. And they signed the Stanley Cup winning coach from Washington, Barry Trotz. He's an excellent coach, but it was thought, maybe that they would have some moderate success. They'd, do okay through patches of the season, but nobody thought that they would not only qualify for the playoffs, but actually make it through the division spot, not the wild card. So the New York Islanders out of the East, certainly off everyone's radar. In the West, I'd probably say Colorado, maybe. I mean, Colorado made it in last year. They got eliminated in the first round. They're sort of a team that has some nice pieces. They have one of the best lines in hockey of McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen. But defense-wise and goaltending, they don't really impress that much. So it's purely with work ethic and just coming to play every night that they've qualified. Now, I don't expect the same things from Colorado that maybe the New York Islanders could do. But yeah, both teams, I don't think too many people thought would be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Tampa Bay, you mentioned in your Eastern Conference preview that they are the team to beat after the season that they have had. What makes them so good, and do you think the odds on them are justified?
Well, Tampa is in a position to sort of have one of the best seasons of all time in the regular season. They broke 61 wins last night, which is just incredible. And in 2005, there was a lockout year where a salary cap was instituted. So all teams were sort of given an even playing field as far as what they could pay for players. We've seen it in other leagues. So for them to have such a dominant season in an era when everybody is thought to not have more than anybody else was truly impressive. Now, the one thing that I'll say here is, although they have the best offensive depth of forwards, they have some excellent veteran leadership. Steven Stamkos has been with the team for, I think 2008 he was drafted. But in that time, they haven't won a cup. So they've been here many times. They've had many excellent regular seasons, but then they've come across another hot team in the East or a very good team in the West and failed to make it work. Now, I don't think there's value on them to lift the cup. I really don't. My best bet for Tampa would be them reaching the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay. I should say potentially winning the Eastern Conference Finals, but it depends who they face. I do think they'll make it to the third round, but they're overvalued. Everybody has eyes on Tampa. You don't want to bet on teams when the market is sort of fully saturated and everybody's on that one side. So you want to find, the dark horses or teams that get hot during the playoffs. So although I think they're the team to beat, I am not ready to put my money on them on the futures.
All right, so they are the team to beat, which leads me to my next question is there any value in sort of dark horses? Are you looking at any, or is just Tampa Bay, if they're the team to beat, are you just staying away from that market?
Well, I've considered a couple options here. I haven't obviously taken anything yet. There's a few teams that are being overshadowed. I wouldn't call them dark horses, but they're being overshadowed. So we know what happened up 3-1. Toronto made a great comeback to force a Game 7. And when Boston started their series with Tampa Bay, they were outclassed. It just looked like Tampa Bay was fresh. Boston won the first game and then got swept the next 4. It looked like Tampa just had more tempo, more energy. It wasn't really a contest after that first game. So if it's a shorter series between Toronto and Boston, I think the winner of that could put up a contest against Tampa Bay. As well, there's a few teams that are sort of being overlooked in champions who beat Tampa Bay in the Eastern Finals last year, and they had a good season again. They won their division. They've got most of the key pieces. They got a new coach, obviously, but Holtby's been steady. They've sort of just had a good enough season to get the job done. They've looked pretty impressive at times, but they don't have everybody's attention because they didn't have the season Tampa Bay did. In a 7-game series, though, I wouldn't put Tampa Bay as too heavy of favorites here, given that Washington has beat them. They know how to beat the depth of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So still have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin. I mean, these are 3 top offensive weapons in the league. Anybody would be happy to have them on their top line. So again, if Pittsburgh gets hot, you still can't save Tampa Bay is going to run over them. So I'm really just sort of going to be looking at the early rounds and trying to assess, how are teams winning games? How are they going to match up against the Bolts?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, looking at other outrights, Calgary is matched against the 8th seed Colorado Avalanche, and obviously favored to win the West. Is there value there?
Yeah, Calgary, it's an interesting team. I mean, I'm going to be completely unbiased, honestly, even being from Edmonton. There's a great rivalry there, but it's been very lopsided in recent years, so I've had to watch Calgary have pretty good success. Calgary had a great regular season. I think they're going to struggle against the winner of the Sharks Knights. And even Colorado, I know Calgary swept the series with Colorado this year, the season series. But Calgary's goaltending has been an issue all year. They're saying they're going to go with Mike Smith. He's a veteran of the playoffs. He used to face enormous shots against, and he did excellent in Phoenix. But I don't know, Calgary, they have to show it to me first for me to say they deserve the price they're being given as well. Both the Sharks rosters and the Knights. I mean, the Knights last year went all the way to the Cup Finals with being a completely new team. I think these teams can challenge Calgary, and because of the season Calgary had, they're going to be the price as a favorite here. So in all, of course, we want to always find the winners, but you always have to take into context the price that a team is being given to achieve that goal. So if it's going 7 games, you don't really want to have Calgary as a 1.4, 1.5 favorite on the series. It doesn't make you feel good to know that they're one bad sort of bounce away from being eliminated. So again, Calgary, we see it often. Regular season teams that have sort of rolled all season, they get overvalued headed into the playoffs, and everybody starts at the same level. They need 16 wins to lift the cup. So don't jump on the Tampa Bays, the Calgarys too quickly, I would say.
Yeah, well, which leads me to my final question here, that we do commonly see underdogs get quite far in the competition, often a good way to sort of hedge your bets. Or is there anybody that you've got your sights on right now? Obviously, before the playoffs, what bets have you made, or that our viewers can certainly look at ahead of the playoffs?
So I haven't actually made any futures bets this season on the playoffs, and that's typical for me. I usually do like to wait till this time because we don't know, for injuries, for one reason, what's going to happen, and we see huge odd fluctuations throughout the season. So it's not too late to get in at this time of year. As far as underdogs that could go far, teams like Montreal, who still have a very slim chance to get in, or Carolina, who secured a spot last night. These are teams that have been playing playoff hockey for weeks now. They have been grinding out wins against better opposition who have sort of been able to coast. And those are the teams that can really present a danger, I guess, to favorites that you might have taken early in the season. Even like the Dallas Stars, they're coming in at the 7th seed, and they've down style, be high offense style hockey. They've been playing a shutdown form for weeks now as well.
Yeah.
And if they get hot goaltending, they've got some, Sagan, and they've got some great pieces as well up front. These are teams that you want to just be cautious of betting against because, again, a hot goalie, a hot line, good penalty killing, just getting the right composition at the right time of year can sort of throw the playoffs wide open. So I would take serious looks at some of those 7th, 8th seeds to, get 3 wins or maybe upset a series. As I said in the article, President's Trophy winners like the Tampa Bay Lightning, they don't have, a near perfect track record in the playoffs. They've been more likely to get knocked out in the first round than to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. It's not a foregone conclusion that we see, Calgary, Tampa Bay final.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So just to end this segment now, I'm just having a quick look at our content schedule for next week. Obviously, playoffs start 10th of April. For those wanting some help with their betting tips, when are we going to see your articles on oddsmarket.com?
Yeah, so I'll start hitting the lines on late Saturday night, early Sunday morning when the first futures are released, mm-hmm. And props and series lines for the Stanley Cup Finals. So I'll have articles out on Sunday for those, and then my actual series bets for the West and the East will be out Monday, Tuesday.
There we go. All right, so that was Adam Boothe for NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs.